Welcome to this week's Aiding Your Game, our web series where we talk about all things RPG. This week we're going to focus on thinking through the storyline that we're presenting to our characters and how we can use the antics of our players through their characters to tell even better stories. Now, before we jump into the video, make sure you subscribe to help us grow. If you don't mind the notifications, hit that bell so you get notifications when we post new content. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Leave a comment down below so that we can help build better content that suits your games. And be sure to share us with your friends and family who also enjoy RPGs. Now, while this video is focused specifically on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, these concepts and ideas are going to work for a plethora of different RPGs and genres. However, because Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is arguably the most popular RPG currently, that's what our videos are going to focus on. So what does it mean to be a DM? It's pretty easy to understand that you're the referee, you're presenting the story and the scenery, the landscape, the persons that your player characters are going to interact with and engage in game. But before any of that can ever occur, you as the GM need to flex your thoughts and really be creative to come up with the stories that your players are going to encounter and engage with. Now, whether you're using published materials or creating your own, understanding the content and getting in and learning the lore, the story, and the progression of that story from start, middle to end is super important. That way you can present it to your players without having to do a lot of pauses to look things up. You'll be able to give it to them with confidence and really blend things together and make it seem like a seamless transition from scene to scene. Now, with published materials such as module books, the presentation generally is going to have that flow. And while many of the adventures allow for player agency to pick and choose which paths they're going to go to, kind of focus on different elements of the story, moving back and forth through those modules, if you don't have a good handle on what you're presenting, it may come off a bit more challenging for you to seamlessly progress the story and continue the character's journey through that adventure. Likewise, when you're creating adventures of your own, having a good concept and understanding of the flow of your primary story is going to allow you to progress the characters through that story while making a combined story of yours and the character stories all at once. In previous videos, we've built an adventure together. We'll put a link to that at the end of this video. But as we talk more about building our campaign world, understanding the stories that we want to tell, making them what we're proud of and what we really have confidence in presenting to our players, and having their characters adventure and experience in, really spending some time up front with those creative thoughts and looking at how you can creatively tell a story is going to save you time in the long run, because you're already going to have that spine of the story that you can then build off of, kind of those rib bones. When your players then are sitting at the table and interacting with the story you're presenting, they're going to have a much more in-depth experience because you're going to be able to present it very confidently. You're going to have a lot of knowledge and experience with what that progression should look like. And in the case they have any type of antics or go in directions that you didn't expect or plan for, you'll be able to quickly improv and either move them back on track or create new tracks that story can continue to progress on. Anytime I'm writing new content for my RPGs, I really start with that story. And there are a lot of good videos on designing those story elements. How to Be a Great GM is a fantastic place to start. I'll try to remember to put a link to that in my description. But in summary, it's really no surprise. When you're sitting down to tell a story, the biggest thing to start thinking about is, what is the story genre? Is this a type of epic, heroic campaign? Is it something where they're trying to overturn oppression and really have a positive impact on the systems that are in place in your game world? Could be something as simple as being evil and trying to overthrow the world, or being good and trying to stop others from trying to overthrow the world. Regardless of the type of adventure you're running, the processes of creating that story are very similar, and really just some basic steps can help you get from that initial concept to tabletop play. For myself, what I'll do is write the general idea of what that adventure should encompass. For example, in my Last Light campaign, the goal is to stop evil beings from doing a three-prong approach to overtake a big section of the world. This really drives home the fact that I want the characters to be the heroes, whether or not they're motivated by greed or any other value. They should ultimately be the heroes who are there to overcome the three-pronged evil approach of the antagonists. Now, I designed that campaign to really have three-pronged approach because I want the players to kind of choose which direction they're going to go in, with three different kind of paths laid in front of them. Whatever they kind of cling to the most, that's the one that will unfold, and then behind the scenes, the other two can be addressed. Having this general idea written down, I can start focusing on each of the prongs. Ultimately, who is the villain and why are they a villain? What's their goal and how do they mean to accomplish those goals? The whole time I'm thinking about that villain and their goals, I also have to start thinking about how are the characters going to try to interrupt those goals. By already having contingency plans as my villain, I can be prepared for if my characters get too close to that evil being trying to stop them. They should have backup plans should anything go awry. Once I've kind of fleshed out who my villains are and what their primary goal is, I start thinking about the paths they're going to take to achieve those goals. Whether that's directly through themselves, using lieutenants, using different types of creatures from different planes, however they mean to accomplish their goal, they're going to set things in motion that suddenly spur action to be needed on the characters' parts to stop. It's that antagonist's initial action that is going to kind of start the adventure. It's going to be the initial plot hook. Prior to this, there could be just some general adventures that they go on, exploring tombs, helping local citizens with menial tasks, whatever those small bits and pieces are. The story hook that I get them into is that antagonist moving into action. That should really spur them on the path of saving the day for those good campaigns. Or, using the same logic, having your PCs try to overcome whatever obstacles there are for that story campaign. The beginning piece is really that first kind of action of the antagonist starting their plot, their plan, their actions to achieve their goal. So now that you have your general story idea, you've got a villain, and you have that idea for the action that's going to set everything in place, now you want to start mapping out some of the milestones that are going to occur for our villain to achieve his goal of overcoming the general area and taking over as a empirical ruler. He has to have certain things happen for that to be able to process. Now, those are also plot hooks that as the villain starts to achieve those, they get closer and closer to their end goal. Obviously, the player characters should be able to thwart some of these, and that should be the goal. You should leave enough information, evidence, ideas for them to be able to intertwine on this story, knowing that these breadcrumbs that you're putting down, the PCs will start interfering with. You do have to come up with some other ideas to start to generate other opportunities for your villain to reach that goal. If after the first or second act they're not able to achieve their goal, they can't proceed and the story can't continue on. Not in the same fashion. While you can still carry on and possibly adjust to a different story element, a different antagonist, there are multiple things you can do to overcome those types of pieces by thinking through them first and coming up with other plans or other options. It allows you the opportunity to continue that same storyline until you see it to fruition, either for your villain to achieve their goal or your PCs to completely thwart him and ultimately save the day. Getting in the mind of your villain and how you want that story to progress, I call the backbone of your campaign or your story. That backbone, again, should not be so rigid that it's unbreakable. However, by having that backbone, it's going to allow you to lead the story and come up with the elements you need to present to your players so that you can have a better understanding of what's going on and where, so that you can present it to your players confidently and in good detail. If, for instance, your story has you going through an island chain, being able to kind of plot out and think about what that island chain is like allows you to describe it in more detail, have confidence, be consistent, and not have to improv things that you may have regrets for later or may contradict yourself later. Writing down or typing out your initial ideas, your story backbone, is going to allow you to have that consistency, to be confident in the presentations that you give to your players. Likewise, this leads to a lot of opportunity for you to come up with side quests and side plots, as well as additional story hooks and elements. For instance, if the party is moving through a chain of islands, thinking about how the citizens there move from island to island. Are there any big capitals or cities that the players may want to investigate? While they're there, is there anything in story that they're looking for or trying to achieve? Some of these bits you can kind of come up with as you're progressing the story along. If your players, for instance, are looking for stronger weapons and armors, a city seaport may be a great location for them to either buy them or get information where ancient temples may be on the islands hidden, that the adventurers can go and discover the items they're looking for. By crafting a world out and having some waypoints, it gives you the opportunity to bend the game world to fit the agency that your players and their characters are needing in game to continue their own story. Because after all, RPGs are about telling a story together. Now, I've seen a lot of posts from people who really just improv from start to finish, and I really have to say I admire that. I could just say, from my opinion, I have the best storytelling when I'm able to write out my backbone and then create around that original idea and backbone. And whether you're writing just a one-shot adventure, a series of adventures, or an entire ongoing campaign world and campaign story, by writing down and keeping track of what you're creating, you're going to have a better opportunity to present it to your player characters as a living, breathing world, which is going to help them invest in your story, buy into your world, your campaign elements, and get emotional connections to the world and the people in it. This is going to help in a couple of ways. First off, when they get more emotionally involved in your story and in your gaming world and the people in your gaming world, they're going to have a better opportunity to buy in, to be at the table on time consistently. When it matters to people, we make the time, we make the effort. If it doesn't matter, why should we bother? Spending that little bit of time in prep work and pre-game setup is really going to help pay dividends in the long run, not only for yourself for that consistency, as well as being able to just quickly refer to things to continue to build upon and present, but also for your players, for them to have that familiarity with your locations, with your persons, with the game world that you're presenting. As they build those emotional connections and really view their characters as inhabitants of your gaming world, they'll have more deep dives into character development, character progression, story progression, as well as a buy-in to your table play style. Who doesn't want to know how their character is impacted by the world and how their character impacts the world? Those types of driving forces are what keeps me going back to a table repeatedly as a player. I want to know, how does my character fit into this jigsaw puzzle? What's their impact on it? Does it meet the story arc that I have planned in my head? Does my character develop the way I plan and envision them when I'm creating them? And ultimately, do they have a lasting impact on the world that they inhabit? We all want that question answered of, is there anything more? Is this all that I am? Through character development and creation in your game worlds, your players will be able to have that question answered, especially when they have good connections to your gaming world, because you're consistent, you've thought things out creatively, you've got important facets and factors that matter to their character as well as to the player's ambitions for the character, and they're able to really have immersion into your world through great descriptions, fantastic locations, interesting people, and intriguing opportunities. So if you're a new DM, don't hesitate to spend time with that creative thought process, going through your story notes, writing things down and looking for opportunities to expand and contract some of the parts and pieces that may have better opportunity for your players to intertwine their character stories to your overall story. Thinking of your story from a start, a middle, and an end is going to allow you to not only weave a fantastic tale, but allow your players to weave that tale with you as their characters are impacting that backbone. Now, if you started creating a story and you're stuck or you're having a hard time getting through some of the thoughts, don't hesitate. Leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer, put in my input, and hopefully help you over any bumps that you may be having, as well as just giving you my thoughts and opinions on your story elements and story flow. I love to help with creation in both story, worlds, as well as characters. So please, if you've got something that you're sticking on or you just would like some feedback, pop it in the comments below. I guarantee I'll answer each one. Until next week, keep creative, keep inventing, keep coming up with ideas, and from my world to yours, keep adventuring. I hope you enjoyed that video. Here's a link to another video that you may enjoy. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button to help us grow. If you'd like to support us, make sure you check out the description of the video with some links and leave a comment to let us know, where will your adventures take you?